kale does really well. These were on the rafts all summer long. Kale's known as a winter crop, but they did do great all summer long. They look just like this. Of course, on the rafts, they were falling over. It's kind of hard for that to stay up.
How old are these?
These were planted in February, so we're looking at almost a year. And they've been harvested probably 6 or 8 times. In fact, when I planted these, you know, when you harvest kale, you normally harvest all of it up to about here. All of this would get bundled. So the stalks, when I planted these, were probably this tall. So probably 2 feet of this is in the gravel. You'll see how much of it.
Oh, wow.
And they were all curly and bent over because on the rafts, they could only get about a foot and they'd fall over and then they would start growing back up. And so when I pulled them out, they were all just crazy wicked. So you'll see. Lo and behold, I'm cranking these out for about 6 months straight, and now that it's winter time, Wheatsville has 6 or 8 other farmers that provide their kale, so I'm kind of catching hind tit on the. I only get to harvest about once a month now. So you can see I have an abundance of kale. Restaurants and stores are not your best market. But it all works. And as you know, there's gravel and there's raft. And the new trend in commercial hydroponics is actually going to a hybrid where you use the gravel as your filtration before the rafts. You link the two together, it takes out all the filtration problems associated with raft aquaponics. So the hybrid is, even the folks that have been using raft exclusively are now retrofitting gravel pre-filter for the raft. And so they're kind of working backwards. As far as I know, I'm one of the first commercial operations to go gravel to raft. It's really been working great. I can show you the fish here in a second too.
Yeah, that's what it's at.
So I'm going to be on your next TED Talk.
Yeah.
This gets to the part where it's watch your head and step. It's been watch your step.
Whoa.
Oh, the big ones are right here.
How come you don't fill it higher level of water?
Purchased these tanks thinking I could put more water would equal more fish, would equal more grow space.
Yeah.
I have limitations to how far I can run the plumbing. So when I bought these bigger tanks, I really didn't need to. I should have just bought the 1,000-gallon tank. So I'm only using 1,000 gallons of water. I'm using a knockoff food this last week. It's a cheaper catfish food, and it's cheaper water quality stuff. There's always these pieces that you can have much more clarity. I see exactly my preferred Aquaponics food. I can water clarity straight up about 2 days. Yeah, they're ready.
So they self-propagate?
So these are 1,000-gallon tanks. You can do 500 pounds of fish in each one.
500 pounds, and how often can you harvest them?
That's up to you. You could either do it all at once or stagger harvest. You know, it just depends on your needs. If you harvest all 500 pounds at once, then you'd have to replace them all with some fingerling, and then you'd have to wait another year. So it takes about a year for the fish to grow from fingerling to plate size, pound and a half, being considered plate size. What I'd recommend if you were trying to feed an army is you would need, 3 to 6 of these so that you had about 3,000 pounds of fish. And if you did your math, that would give you a weekly harvest of block. So,
Of how much do you think?
well, it
3,000
depends.
divided.
If you had 500
550?
pounds, you would get, 10 pounds a week. If you needed 100 pounds a week, you just need that many more tanks. You're probably aware aquaponics has stocking limitations as well as ratios to the water and the grow space that you use, and you're really limited to those ratios. If you want more, you just do multiples. You can do larger tanks, larger sets of grow beds to the tanks. What happens is you run into plumbing issues. The logistics of making it bigger doesn't make it easier. you're almost better off with multiple sets of about 1,000 gallons, maybe up to 4,000 gallons. It gives you more stability, really. If you have a problem with one tank, it doesn't take out the rest. And so, you know, having isolation is a good thing in aquaculture. In fact, I try not to even use the same dipping net in different tanks. I try to buy a net per tank and a set of tools per tank. Honestly, and knock on wood, luckily I've never had any disease outbreaks, so I don't have any issues yet. But it's always inevitable in aquaculture, and so again, multiple setups is best.
So 1,000-gallon tank, each one has 500 pounds of fish?
Right, you're limited to a ½ pound per gallon as your maximum stocking density. Now that being said, you'll notice over here that I've added an additional filtration unit because this one is stocked at over 3/4 of a pound, which in aquaculture, even in aquaponics, is considered pretty amazing.
Is it biofilter?
This one right here has probably 450 fish at about 1.5 pounds each, and if you do the math, that's darn near 3/4 of a pound per gallon in there. You'll notice that one actually has the best water clarity today, and that's because it goes through this additional filtration. This is actually an IBC tote with the top cut off, turned sideways. It's a settling tank where the poops would stay in the bottom. You got this orchard netting as a final polisher. It also adds some bacteria growth. And then this is just the sump that absorbs the water differential from flooding the beds. And so you wind up with a constant level fish tank. As where these other ones that don't have this pre-filtering sump tank to help with that, they're not constant level. They actually have a fluctuating water level. Again, as the grow beds are full, the 200 gallons that it takes to fill those is displaced from the water. This actually helps with that. You wind up with a constant level fish tank, and the sump absorbs your fluctuation. I actually have the cleanest gravel and some of the best plant growth in this system right here. This one is just connected to the 250 square feet of grow space. For your records, if you're trying to determine how much grow space can I connect to a tank of water, it's your gallons times 0.266. So 1,000 gallons could handle 266 square feet, or always really cubic feet, because we're always talking about 12 inches deep. So 250 cubic feet of grow space, 260. I use 250 just because that's what fit. And so for a rough, easy math, it's always 25% of your volume. If you had 100 gallons, you can do 25 gallons of grow space. If you got 1,000 gallons, you can do 250 gallons of grow space. That limitation is really based on the amount of water that you can comfortably displace.
250 cubic feet of grow space, not gallons.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. He's right. It's cubic feet, not gallons. You'll find a lot of, and the reason I got that confused is a lot of your generic ratios will be gallons to gallons. So then you got to do a water gallons to square foot or square foot of cubic feet of gravel to gallons ratio. Ignore all of that. If you just do the simple math, 1,000 gallons will do 250 cubic feet. You kind of have to do the conversion yourself. But that's the shortest, easiest way to keep that calculation that I've found. On the rafts, though, all those numbers stay the same, and you can just double your grow space. So you can add 500 square feet of raft to 1,000 gallons of water on top of the 250 square feet of grow space. So you
on top of that,
tripled your grow space without displacing more water. And in fact, when you add those giant rafts, you've added 2,000 to 3,000 extra gallons of water. So as far as those fish are concerned, they're benefiting a 4,000 gallon tank of water, not just 1,000 gallons, because they get to share that water.
If that's the case, can't you just add more grow space in the gravel in lieu of that? Or?
You will displace too much water from your fish tank
displacement. Okay, yeah.
to ebb and flow.
Okay,
those.
okay.
So there's some limitations there. Now, you can offset that with a larger sump tank. So if I had a 1,000-gallon sump tank, I could probably do 1,000 square feet of grow space. But what happens is you're going to eventually dilute your water to where you won't have enough fish to keep all that growth at its optimal.
Unless you spray the
You
grow
can
beds.
always supplement the plants with any of your sprays.